Every program has an algorithm, a series of systems and structures designed to keep that programming running at its optimum level. 651 Arts was no exception. But what would this new algorithm be for this new company?
So I was always hoping that we could introduce new ways of thinking that could help folks articulate their own issues and begin then to, once they defined those issues and the importance, the relative importance of them, that they could imagine new possibilities about how to solve them. Because that's what art does at the end of the day. You know, certain folks are like, oh, you know, we're doing, you know, art for its intrinsic value and all that. But you know, art is always in dialogue. Whether you want to admit it or not, art is always in dialogue with the community. And it emanates, and especially in, you know, in the places where my ancestors are from, as I understand it, there was no such thing really as like art in a box. It was a part of how we navigated life.
We did 100 Years in Jazz and Blues. There was an exhibition that was in BAM's now Cafe. We created 5 rooms, and they were 5 different periods in over the 100 years, and how people learned or heard about, I shouldn't say heard, but how they heard music in their homes, either with before, you know, electricity in their homes. What were they listening? Well, they had a piano, right? Or eventually it was a Victrola, and eventually it was video, and it was, you know, you went to a club. So we created a little club, and we created a room in a home, and we created a video room so people could actually walk through.
The first major program that I curated was Movement 63. And this was in 2013, 2014 season, and it was the 50th anniversary of major events that shaped the world that happened in 1963. The assassination of President Kennedy, Martin Luther King's letters from a jail cell, the death of W.B. Du Bois, the death of Medgar Evers, and on and on and on.
It became very clear to these architects of the algorithm what the programming for 651 needed to be. And their primary focus was what they called Black dance tradition and transformation.
Yeah, so that is something that we started in 1998, I believe. And it was intended to really stretch the boundaries of what African dance was and African diaspora contemporary cultural expression was in the popular imagination. And so it was focused on bringing to the stage work from around the world that was reflective of contemporary dance-making practice within the African diaspora. And so we would bring new artists or introduce artists who had not been in New York before, whether they were from the West Coast or from, you know, Côte d'Ivoire, to the stage. We really wanted to display the vast array of riches that are present in contemporary Black cultural expression through that program.
So part of our programming, in addition to being immersive, was also educational, right? So it was also, we didn't have a children's program, but we did, for things that where it was appropriate, we would try to involve schools in what we were doing. So in that case, we actually had classes come during the daytime and walk through it. It was really kind of nice because you see these little kids sitting at in a club, and, you know, and drinking soda or juice or whatever it was. And it was really interesting watching them because they were listening to the same thing that people would be listening to at night, because we actually had a band on stage. And they were like, you know, I'm cooling out at the jazz club, you know, they really got into it. So it's nice to kind of see that, you know.
I wanted to do thematic programming. I wanted to program around a season, around a theme, a topic. And I wanted to interrogate that topic through dance, through music, through theater, through humanity events, through conversations. And I inherited some solid programs like Live and Outspoken that Georgiana Pickett, who was my predecessor, that she created. And then we already had a long history of doing dance. We had a long history of doing music. So I just took that foundation and then put an overarching theme on top of it and then curated under that theme.
You find your voice and your voice begins to bring you success. 651 Arts was on their way. But, as with all success, there's always someone watching, waiting to reap what you have sown.
I would characterize the climate as predominantly white organizations benefiting from 651's years and years and years of investment